Good morning. The rumble of the crowd. When Mr. Cronin approached me today, I asked him what the key word of this morning's reading would be, and he said, love. Love. I love many things. I love these super nachos at Taco Bravo. Oh yes. The perfect combination of delicious and disgusting in every bite. I love reality television, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. That's right, Big Brother is back next week, people. There's a few of you out there. And who could even approach this topic of love without mentioning one's love of international fitness model, Mr. Tom Matroni? It's a real photo. But then I thought, no, Mr. Cronin must be talking about a person or people that you love, like your family. These are my favorite people in the world. My wife and daughter, way cuter than I deserve. Or perhaps you consider your love of a particular sports team, such as my unconditional love for the San Jose Sharks. Here's Mr. K and I celebrating their trip to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago. That was an awesome night. Or of course, the love you might have for a mentor, such as international fitness model Mr. Tom Matroni. But then, I actually looked at the reading. Love is patient, love is kind. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This type of love can easily be related to something that I know, something I've spent my whole life involved in, the world of theater. And my love my parents showed me throughout my entire life as I dared to pursue my passion. Oh yes, the 70s. Very exciting time. I've been performing ever since I was able to walk. I was known for my awesome magic skills, my vocal ability, my sold-out puppet shows, and a wicked one-eyed pirate impression. I used to do game shows when I was 5 years old for my parents in my living room, reenactments of a show called The Gong Show. Anyone heard of The Gong Show? Which was basically a 1970s version of America's Got Talent, but when an act was bad, the judges rang a giant gong and the person was literally booed off the stage. I used to make my parents, neighbors, strangers participate, and everybody got gonged because they were terrible. My parents decided to let me take out my performing enthusiasm at Children's Musical Theater San Jose, CMTSJ, in 1980, where I began my stage debut as the rear end of the cow in Jack and the Beanstalk. I was the best animal butt the world had ever seen, and I was hooked. I had many other roles during my childhood, including Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Oklahoma, Hello Dolly. Now, I'm not alone as a young performer here at Mitty. You could also find Mr. Keymont as a singing baseball player with me in Damn Yankees. Here we are, right out of high school. Mrs. Portillo was often found on stage in her high school career. And of course, who could forget the legend of Mr. Cronin as the Cowardly Lion in The Wiz? It's true. I love performing, and I knew at a young age that I wanted to pursue it as a career. My parents could have easily discouraged me. After all, the thought of having a child enter the uncertain and unkind world of the arts is daunting for a parent, and neither of them had a background in the arts. My mom was a first-grade teacher. My dad was an all-state football player in Hawaii. Yes, I am part Portuguese Hawaiian, can't you tell? Instead of encouraging me to find a different, less dramatic activity, my parents encouraged me to follow my passion. Eventually, I got an agent in San Francisco. Here's my headshot. And that was a huge commitment by my parents to take time off work, drive me to the city on a moment's notice for an audition, sometimes to sit there for 3 hours, or to be sent home in 5 minutes because I was not the right height or I had the wrong hair color. The first commercial I booked was for Manwich. Anyone remember Manwich here? It was an old Sloppy Joe mix, delicious and disgusting. I had gotten sick the day before the filming, but I wasn't going to blow my first commercial gig, so instead I blew Manwich chunks all over the set on the first take. Whoops. I wouldn't have blamed my parents for throwing in the towel after that one. But they stuck with it, and I started booking gigs pretty consistently, including commercials for Orville Redenbacher. Here he is. He could barely remember how to say his name, bless his heart. Apple Computer, San Francisco Zoo. I even got a few movies, including the infamous Howard the Duck. Yes. I was 10 years old, and I had a page of dialogue with this guy named Ed, dressed in a duck costume. Sometimes he would take off his duck head and smoke cigarettes outside his trailer. It was a very odd visual. I sat on that set for 5 weeks, only to go to the movie premiere and find that my entire scene had been cut from the movie, except for this quick image. The thing that made it sting even more is I had booked a role in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and I turned it down to do Howard the Duck. And the lines in that movie were not cut. That's showbiz, kid. I had a few other close calls. Made it to the end of casting for John Candy's son in The Great Outdoors, Jeff Bridges' son in Tucker. I even had a callback for the role of Screech on Saved by the Bell. Can you imagine me as Screech? Amazing. Life as an actor is tough. You're rejected on the daily. You essentially have to hear no more often than you hear yes, and have job interviews every day. It's not easy. But my parents always made me feel like it was all right. They wanted me to pursue what I loved and take the obstacles head on. Their love for me believed all things and endured all things. There was a moment in college, my senior year, when I didn't get cast in Noises Off, which for my theater students in here today know that's like the holy grail of comedy plays, and I didn't get it. It was devastating, given this was my final show in college. The next step for me was to move to New York and start auditioning, and I felt like a failure. I was ready to quit. The love my parents showed me, their message was that when life knocks you down, you need to get back up and keep fighting. So I kept plugging away after college. I booked a national tour of Bye Bye Birdie, got to perform across the country for 8 months, living the dream. I moved to New York. In between auditions, I demonstrated toys at F.A.O. Schwartz Toy Store. My toy demo station every day was right next to these giant Teletubbies, which played the same episode over and over and over again. I was trapped in Tinky Winky hell. But when I booked my first show in New York, a tour and off-Broadway musical version of the children's book, Lyle, Lyle, Crocodile, was all worth it. I went in 8 times for that show, 8 times, and I finally wore them down and I booked it. I was stoked. My first New York show, and I had my parents come out and see it. It was the highlight of my acting career. They were so proud, and I owe it all to them. The love they showed me, the unconditional support, is something that I hope I can replicate as a parent myself. My daughter is now 5, the same age I was during those fateful Gong Show performances, and I can see how much she loves performing. We're treated to daily dance routines, recreations of her favorite moments from that literary classic, Captain Underpants, and show-stopping vocal performances like this one. When I look into her eyes, I want to give her everything I have. All the love, support, and encouragement I have to offer, just as my parents give and still give me today. Tonight, when you go home, take a break from the snapping and the chatting and consider all the sacrifices your parents have made to bring you here to this moment, to this incredible school. Be patient when they frustrate you. Be kind and recognize the support they provide. For the love of your parents and your family bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things, like international fitness model Mr. Tomatroni. There it is. Thank you.